What exactly is chakra balancing? How does it work? Can you balance your own chakras simply by listening to specially created audio soundscapes? Stephen Carter here, CEO for Stress Solutions, LLC. I'm also your host for the Creating Inner Harmony series of video and audio explorations into self-care methods for emotional and physical well-being. In this conversation with TyFord, we explore chakra balancing, what it is, how it works, and how you can use specially created audio soundscapes to balance your chakras and help keep your energy system in optimum condition. Ty is a musician, he's a composer, he's an audio engineer, and a member of the Maryland Entertainment Hall of Fame. He is also a caring energy practitioner who has extensive training and experience. You're going to want to stay tuned through the video because near the end of my conversation with Ty, he shares how you can experience the chakra balancing soundscape for yourself absolutely free. You'll find links to all of the resources Ty and I talk about in the description section right below the video. Let's join my conversation with musician, composer, and chakra balancing expert, TyFord. Welcome, Ty, to the Creating Inner Harmony program. I really appreciate you joining us to talk about chakra balancing, Qigong, and an innovative audio chakra balancing soundscape resource you've created. I'm really excited to hear about that. But before we get into that, I'd like to dive right into the energy healing pool, specifically chakra balancing. Can you share with us what that is? How does it work?
Well, thank you, Stephen, for having me on. And chakra balancing is a very old system. And it starts with the idea that there are 7 basic chakras, from the root chakra at the base of your spine to the crown chakra off the top of your head. And these individual chakras can get out of whack. They can be too active, they can be underactive, or they can be strangely active. And the idea of chakra balancing is to go through these 7 main chakras and ascertain what their state is. Normally, this is done with a crystal pendant. There are a number of practitioners who can put their hands in air over the or on the body of the client and just know something's not right. But there is, as part of the procedure, the chakras all spin in specific directions, and you know this as from what you've learned. And you go in and with your hand over the body, get them to spin in the correct direction if they're not already. And after that procedure, you can turn your client over on the stomach. This is started with the client on the back. You can turn them over in the stomach. You can do that. And then there's a whole secondary part of a clearing where you start it depending upon whether the client has had recent drugs that need to be accounted for, or whether they don't and they're just normal. And by drugs, I mean, anesthetics, anything. You don't want to take the primary way to do it is to take everything out of the heart. But if you have drugs in your system and you don't want to pull that energy through the heart, then you start at the heart and work your way down, out the fingers, out the toes, out the top of the head.
So it's quite a process. And
yeah.
What happened? Well, medical, you combine chakra balancing, as we've talked prior to our conversation here, with medical Qigong.
Yep.
Can you share just a bit about what that is and how you combine those two together?
They're similar in theory. I studied with Michael Pang up in New York, about 4 years ago, because I was curious as to what other additives to what I already knew would be helpful to my clients. And he has specific manipulations which he uses, and he's hands-on, he's touch. Chakra balancing can be done fairly much off the body, but he's more touch oriented. And for him, you are using, as you will with chakra balancing, a great deal of intention. It's the intention of the practitioner to make the energy move a certain way and do a certain thing. And as you have your client on the table and you're working on him or her, you can have a light conversation and asking if they feel this or what they feel, which helps you as a practitioner figure out which of these approaches you're going to use. And I think some of this becomes intuitive for me after a while. I'm always anxious to hear what a client may be feeling or not feeling, or in some cases, I'll send red or green or blue, and I'll ask them if there's what colors they may be seeing. Sometimes if we work in pairs, which we sometimes do, especially in chakra balancing, someone will be at the feet of the client, I'll be at the head, and I'll be sending one color and they'll be sending another color, one over top of the other, to achieve a desired effect.
As a client, what do I experience? So I'm a client on your table.
Right.
I've shown up and I have whatever the presenting issue is.
Right.
Let's just say back pain for conversation.
Yeah.
What am I going to experience? How does that session unfold?
Well, you are clothed. I ask you to take your shoes off, take rings and wristwatches and necklaces off. And we start by grounding, because these days, remaining grounded is more and more difficult for human beings. And that's normally done beginning at the foot of the client, and I'll hold the feet, and my energy, my intention is to pull everything down to the feet, through me, and into the ground. So literally, the client is grounded. And I remember in class one night, many years ago, I was working on this woman, and I could feel the grounding happening, and then I would leave there and go to the next stage, and it wasn't working. And I grounded her 3 times, and my teacher came over and said, "So what's going on?" I said, "I don't know. I'm trying to ground her here, and I can get it there, but it's not sticking." And at that point, the other student, who was my client for the evening, said, "It's my fault." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, I got some bad news about my daughter today, and I just got it about an hour or so ago. So I'm all up in my head about what's wrong with her and how I can help her and how I can do this and da 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 da. And so it's breaking it because I can't be grounded right now." So what we did then was my teacher and I both worked on her. The second position for grounding after the feet is to be at the shoulders, with your hands underneath the shoulders and just gently pushing down towards the feet. So my teacher was at the feet, I was at the shoulders, and we kind of worked her down until we finally got her grounded. It was tricky, but that's the way it worked.
So each session, it like life, it unfolds as it unfolds.
Yeah,
right?
You never know. Stuff pops up, and you go, "Well, I didn't see that one coming." We were working in her practicum one night, and the woman came in and explained her condition. And I sit down with everybody, every client, and we talk for about 15 minutes, maybe more. And there's a form there's to fill out, boxes to check off, just as though you were going to a medical doctor. I want to know what your history is, what's going on, what the problems are. And, from there, I begin to ascertain, okay, what do I need to do? What pots and pans do I need to bring out to try to bring this person to a positive conclusion?
So how do you bring in Qigong into this work? Or is it sort of intuitive?
It's another pot or pan,
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, well, let's try. If that's, I will lead with the chakra because I found that to be very effective. But there are times when tissue work, you're actually working with the tissue of your client. And, depending upon what state of the union you're in, you have to be concerned about that. The laws vary per state, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my teacher and her teacher, who was Rosalind Bruyere, said, well, you're going to run into this. You're going to have to face it as a practitioner. One of the ways in which you can is to become a minister, because then what you're doing is it falls under the laying on of hands. And that's okay. But if you don't have that and something odd happens, and they come to you and say, what were you doing touching this person? Like, I could say medical Qigong and they might go, yeah, I don't think so. And so it's protection for both me and for the client.
So I'd like to transition.
Sure.
Because you're an audio engineer,
mm-hmm.
You've been on-air talent, you're a musician, a composer, and you have created soundscapes specifically for chakra balancing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So what is a soundscape? How does it work? And how do you incorporate it in with your work when you're seeing a client? And then we'll talk about, can clients benefit from simply listening to the soundscape? And I think I know the answer, but before we get there,
sure.
Let's talk about how you're integrating the soundscape in with your work if you have a client present in your studio.
If I back up a half a step, my teacher one night brought in a cassette and said, I have sounds of the chakras here. I'm going to play them for you, to the class. And I'm like, well, fine. So, we all just sit there and she plays these sounds. And as you said, I'm a recording engineer. I'm a musician. I know certain sounds just by hearing them, what they are. And after the class was over, I went to my teacher and I said, I have a crisis of confidence. And she was surprised. And she said, what? I said, those sounds that you played do not follow the description that you gave of them. That was not 1,000 cycles. That was something completely different. There were many frequencies in there. And she was shocked. And she said, well, contact Rosalind Bruyere. That's where I got this cassette from. And Valerie Hunt, is that there's a doctor that she worked with.
Yes.
And Dr. Hunt had recorded these. And the note I got back from Rosalind's office was, Dr. Hunt took that cassette off the marketplace years ago. You shouldn't be using it for that purpose. So I went, okay. But it was tremendously stimulating. And I said, well, then what are we doing here? And I thought, all right, you've got the colors of the chakras from red to violet. I said, well, all right, how about translating the colors, which are vibrations? As you go up in the colors, you go up in the wavelength. How about if you try to do that and convert those wavelength changes into sound? How would that work? So I hopped onto Google and found that red, the middle of red, arguably is around 440 terahertz. That's 10 to the 12th. And if you don't have a math background, which I do not, by the way, it can be a little daunting. I was like, well, but I know math and to a certain degree in music. So 440, and the violet is up at 730 or something like that. And I said, so below the red, you have infrared, and that's not something we can see. And above violet, we have ultraviolet, and that's, the rays coming out of the sun, among other places, and we don't really see that. So our visible light spectrum is locked into red to violet. And then I looked at 440, 730, and I went, oh, the visible light spectrum is an octave in terahertz. Well, that's oddly fascinating to me. I said, well, how do I get 440 terahertz into something I can actually hear? And in the mathematical processes, there's a term called decimation, and in it you take away equal amounts of everything and throw it away. And I said, well, I don't know, I'm gonna just shoot at this and see what happens. So I go, okay, so 440 hertz, throw all the teras away, and up to 730, I guess it is 760, I forget exactly. And I went, all right, so, and I went, oh, well, now that I have it down in a language that I can understand as a musician, 440 is concert A. When you go to the symphony and everybody tunes up, you hear all the musicians tuning to this note, and that's concert A. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, that's remarkably simple. Let's see how that works. So I created a soundscape, and as I was doing it, I said, well, do I need 440? That's the predominant tone. Can I take overtones, upper harmonics and lower harmonics of the same note? So 440 is, imagine a piano, you hit 440 and you go down one octave and hit the note, the A note down there, it's 220, but it's still an A note. And if you go to 880, it's still an A note, based off the 440 fundamental. So I created a soundscape of 6 octaves for each note. And in the process, I played it for one of my friends, and they said, oh no, you have a percussion, you have a rhythm there. I said, so what's the problem? And they said, well, we belong to a drum circle. And when we hear rhythms, well, we think, and it activates our third chakras. And no. I went, oh, okay, so no rhythm. Okay. And one night on the table, I was receiving in class, and my teacher put on a really nice musical CD. And I'm lying there and I'm just listening to the melody and having a great time. And I went, oh, wait a minute. I can't have a melody either, because that's the same thing. I'm chasing it with my third chakra. So that was those were the confines. So I made them all 7 of them. And I tested them locally with people, and people were going, it really makes a difference. I can really feel something. And at the very end of it, I said, okay, well, let me get all 7 of them, put them together on top of each other, play them all at the same time. That's either going to be horribly cacophonous noise or something else. And that is the last cut. That's what I call bliss. I named it for the website. And it's really pretty cosmic. I don't know if you want me to take that to the next evolution where I got into microtones or not. Should I shut up?
Well, you should never shut up, Ty. But what I would like to do is to encourage those who are listening and watching to actually contact you to learn more about the soundscapes and how they can apply it in their particular situation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, as someone who may not be able to come see you, mm-hmm. Can I purchase or otherwise obtain the soundscapes and listen to those soundscapes for self-care?
Yeah.
And I'll benefit simply by the vibrations of the sound resonating with each of the 7 chakras. Mm-hmm. Okay. And how can I do that? How can I learn more? How can I get in touch with you to learn more about the soundscapes and what you've been doing and how these may apply in my situation?
I think the best way to do it is just reach out to me. I can give you my phone number and also my email address.
Well, why don't we, can they go through your website
They
and
can,
contact you? Is that the best way, or?
that's, yeah, TyFord.com. And my name is very simple. It's TyFord, and it's TyFord.com. And there are email links there. There's more information than you could possibly want. And I'm blanking on the name. I'm going to bring something up here if you'll just hang with me, because I very recently have put all of these online, and I want to see if I can bring up the domain. I'm sorry I didn't write this down, Stephen. It's been it's band. Yeah, here we go. The website is Bandcamp, one word, BANDCAMP.com. And if you put TyFord and Bandcamp in a Google browser, they will come up, and you can listen to them right there. You can stream them on your phone or at home, and get a sense for what they sound like, and perhaps even if you can feel some effect from it. When I first made the first Chakra Soundscape CD, I couldn't get through about the third chakra before I'd be sitting in a chair and I'd be asleep.
Mhm.
And I would wake up around the seventh, I think. And that happened for a while. And after a while, it didn't happen that way. You know, I could stay up. So I always wondered, what's going on when that happens to me? I've had people who do hot yoga, which is highly energetic, and they have used the soundscape to help them with that. And they turn it up really, really loud and rock with it. And I've heard other people who say they just kind of, as I do during a session, choose the one I want, and just let it kind of run in the background. I don't know if we have time for me to tell the story about me at the Edgar Cayce Institute up in New York or not.
We always have time for you, Ty. So what?
Thank you.
So
Stephen,
let's go ahead.
You.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so I have a friend who had been working at the Edgar Cayce Institute up in New York City. And he called and said, well, you know, why don't you come up and bring one of your CDs up and do a presentation. And I said, well, okay. So I had finished Ascension, which is the second CD. And I said, I'll do Ascension. And this is Anton Borowski. He's a pretty well-known healer. And I met him at one of Rosalind's meetings. And so I went up and, you know, I took Ascension, and they had a nice little sound system, and there were 15, 18 people there. And I began by explaining what it was about, and then hit the button and let it play. And it's about 45-minute meditation. And two things happened that were interesting for me anyway. About 3/4 of the way through, one of the guys pulls out his cell phone, drops it on the floor, makes a lot of noise. And I'm out there thinking, well, I guess we lost him. And he does a little something or other, and then puts his phone back in his pocket. And the session ends, and he comes to me and he said, I just want to let you know. And I'm like, oh, I didn't lose him, maybe. And he said, I have something wrong with my neck. And during the meditation, I started feeling something in my neck, and I have a tuner thingy app on my phone, and it tells me what the frequencies are. And so I brought my phone out and I started it, and it was exactly at those frequencies that you were talking about, that you've got there. And I thought, well, it was E for the throat. And I said, interesting, good anecdote, thank you. And behind him was a young woman, and she said, I have MS, and in listening to your soundscape, I felt electricity, and I was shocked, pardon the expression, at first. And I said, well, you okay? And she said, no, it was a good thing. I said, okay. And I came home and I got to thinking about MS. I found someone in one of my outer circles who was then a 65-year-old Black male who's had MS since he was 12, is now officially disabled, but getting around. I said, I want you to come out if you want to. And I want 3 sessions with you in a period of a month. We're going to play the soundscape. I'm going to bring a friend in to do the female side of the clearing, just so it doesn't take as long. And I'll be on the male side, the male being the right side, the left side being the female side. And we want to go through this thing. And man, the first time I worked on him, afterwards, I talked with Jane, my partner in this, and I said, Jane, I don't know, I feel like I'm losing it. I said, the work we do, I have a hand on an ankle, I have a hand on a knee, and I'm intending to push this energy through. It was tremendously difficult, and I hardly got a trickle. And she said, I had the same experience. He felt better when he left the first day. When he came back 10 days, a week later, we did the same thing, played the CD, and I started feeling much more energy movement, as did she. He felt better. The third meeting, it was like put a hand on an ankle, put a hand on a knee, boom, there it was, very present. And at the end of that one, he said, oh, by the way, you know, I've been numb from my hip to my toe because of the MS on the left side for years. I'm not numb there anymore. And we were both shocked. That lasted for 1.5 years. Then he said he started to feel the numbness, and he came back in and worked. I worked him up. Jane wasn't available. And a half an hour into the session, he and I were chatting. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm not numb anymore. So what the question is, I asked this of your viewers and listeners, what's that about? Mm-hmm. I mean, I have my thoughts, which are, I have become a trash man. I go in, and what I do with the soundscape, and my intention is to take out the trash so that his body can heal itself. And with that particular CD, I wasn't using the 7 chakras. I had subdivided the chakras into microtones, as the music, much of the music we hear from the Pakistan and India and in Asia has these tones which to our ears sound a little bit off pitch. Well, they have twice as many notes per octave as we do. So that's why it sounds a little weird. But I thought, well, you've got chakras, but then you've got the space in between the chakras. How can I extend this energy flow through from one chakra to the other? And it was through microtones. So that's that story. I'm sorry it took so long.
No, amazing, and very, very valuable in terms of getting a deeper understanding of how the magic works. And I'll call it magic because we really don't know.
No.
But clearly it is working. It has effects. So, well, Ty, it's been an absolute delight. Before we ring off,
thank you, Steve.
One TyFord, and that's TyFord.com.
Right.
Right. And what is your email address if people want to email you?
It's very simple. It's TyFord at TyFord.com.
TyFord at TyFord.com.
That's so even I can remember it. You know?
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we ring off?
The only thing I can think of is most recently I've become aware of something called the primo vascular system. And apparently it was found by an Asian gentleman, maybe in the late 60s. I found it on Google. But for those who, especially who have any kind of acupuncture, acupressure work that they do, I'd love to find out more about what anybody knows about the primo vascular system, because it's a whole substrata of stuff in the body that I don't hear anybody talking about.
Well, if anyone knows about that, TyFord, or is it Ty or TyFord at TyFord?
It's TyFord at TyFord.
TyFord at TyFord.com. Ty, it's been an absolute delight learning about your well, it is an adventure. They are adventures for sure.
They are adventures.
And what you've done, and you've created some amazing work, and thank you for sharing that.
Mr. Carter, thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure, and I would like to thank those of you who have joined us in the video and who may be listening in the audio podcast version. Thank you. And I wish all blessings in abundance. Namaste.